Captain Elaine Winters stood on the bridge of the ESS Dauntless, her eyes fixed on the vast darkness of space through the main viewport. Stars glittered like distant diamonds against the black canvas. At 42 years old, Winters had spent half her life in space, but its beauty still took her breath away. "Captain, we're reaching the edge of our patrol zone," said Frank Garrison, her executive officer. His voice broke through her moment of quiet reflection. "Acknowledge," she replied, straightening her navy blue uniform. "Prepare to turn back to our assigned route." The year was 2157, 3 decades after humans first learned they weren't alone in the universe. Earth had joined the Galactic Confederation, an alliance of 17 spacefaring species, but humans remained newcomers, still finding their place among the older races. Communications specialist Heather Wright suddenly sat up straight at her console. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she adjusted her headset. "Captain, I'm picking up something," Wright said, her voice tight with concentration. "It's a signal, definitely artificial." Winters walked over to Wright's station. "Confederate transmission." "No, ma'am. It's not on any standard frequency. Actually, I've never seen a pattern like this before." Security Chief Alan Peterson moved closer, his hand resting instinctively on his sidearm. "Could be a trap. Pirates use unusual signals to lure ships off course." "Let me hear it," Winters ordered. Wright tapped a button, and a strange sound filled the bridge. It wasn't random noise. There was a clear pattern. 3 short bursts, 1 long pulse, then 5 rapid clicks, repeating over and over. "That's designed to get attention," Winters said quietly. "Run it through the translation matrix." "Already trying," Wright replied. "But there's nothing in our database that matches it." Garrison frowned. "Captain, we should report this and continue our patrol. Standing orders are clear about investigating unknown signals." He was right. Since joining the Confederation, Earth had agreed to follow strict protocols. Unknown contacts needed to be reported and left for specialized teams to handle. Direct engagement was forbidden. "How far away is the source?" Winters asked, ignoring Garrison's reminder. Wright checked her instruments. "About 7 light hours from our position. Definitely coming from outside Confederate space." Winters walked back to her command chair and sat down. She drummed her fingers on the armrest, thinking, "If someone needs help, they might not have time to wait for a diplomatic team," she said finally. Garrison lowered his voice. "Captain, I understand how you feel, but we have orders. Plot a course to the signal source," Winters told the navigation officer, a young man named Steve Miller. "Maximum speed." "Yes, Captain," Miller replied, entering the coordinates. Garrison stepped closer to her chair. "Captain, I have to formally object to this action." "Noted," Winters said with a slight smile. "But think about it. Frank, would you want to be the one sending a distress call that everyone ignores?" The Dauntless changed course, its powerful engines pushing it toward the unknown signal. For 3 days, they traveled deeper into unexplored space. The signal grew stronger with each passing hour. On the morning of the 4th day, they arrived at a small, unremarkable star system with 5 planets. The signal was coming from the space between the 3rd and 4th planets. "Slow to 1/4 speed," Winters ordered. "Scan for any ships or stations." The tension on the bridge was thick as everyone waited for the results. "Contact," called out Peterson from the tactical station. "I've got a vessel. It's not moving." On screen, Winters commanded. The main display showed a strange ship unlike any they had seen before. It was roughly oval-shaped with 6 fin-like projections. Parts of its hull were torn open, revealing damaged internal systems. Debris floated around it in a slow, sad dance. "Life signs?" Winters asked. Medical Officer Diane Collins checked her readings. "Yes, but they're weak and fading. Whatever's on that ship is dying." Winters stood up. In that moment, she knew she had a choice: follow Confederate rules or follow her conscience. "Prepare a boarding team," she ordered. "We're going to help them." The crew looked at each other nervously, but no one objected. Something in their captain's voice told them this was right, even if it wasn't by the book. The distress call had been answered, but they had no idea what they were about to discover or how it would change everything. Captain Winters led the boarding team herself. She stood in the airlock with Security Chief Alan Peterson, Medical Officer Diane Collins, and 2 security officers named Greg Miller and Lisa Patel. They all wore space suits with helmets that could filter unknown air. "Remember," Winters said as they prepared to board the damaged alien ship, "we don't know what we'll find in there. Our job is to help if we can." Peterson checked his weapon one last time. "And if they're not friendly?" "We'll deal with that if it happens," Winters replied. But they sent a distress call. They need help, not guns pointed at them. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. They floated through the connecting tube into the alien vessel. Their suit lights cut through the darkness, revealing a strange corridor with walls that seemed almost alive, with swirling patterns of blue and green. "The air is breathable," Collins said, checking her scanner, "but I recommend keeping helmets on until we know more." They moved deeper into the ship. The artificial gravity was failing, making their movements awkward as they pushed themselves forward. Then they found the first body. It was small, about the size of a 10-year-old human child, but clearly not human. It had 6 limbs and skin that shimmered with colors even in death. 2 of its limbs were charred from some kind of energy weapon. "They were attacked," Peterson said grimly. Collins knelt beside the body, her medical scanner humming. "This happened at least 5 days ago." They found more bodies as they moved toward the center of the ship. Some were clearly crew members. Others looked like civilians, smaller versions that might have been children. "Captain," called Lisa Patel from up ahead, "I think I found survivors." They hurried forward to a sealed compartment. Through a small window, they could see movement inside. Living aliens huddled together, clearly afraid. "Dr. Collins, can you open this without hurting them?" Winters asked. Collins studied the door mechanism. "I think so. It looks like an emergency seal." She worked with her tools for several minutes before the door slid open with a grinding sound. Inside, 7 aliens backed away in fear. They made high-pitched sounds to each other that the humans' translation devices couldn't understand. "We're here to help," Winters said, taking off her helmet slowly to show her face. She pointed to the medical symbol on Collins' uniform. "We received your distress call." One of the aliens stepped forward. It was taller than the others, with markings around its head that looked almost like a crown. It studied Winters with large, silver eyes, then reached out one of its upper limbs. Collins quickly took out her translation device and held it toward the alien. "It will take time to learn your language. But this will help," she explained, even though she knew the alien couldn't understand her words yet. The alien touched the device cautiously, then made a series of clicks and whistles. "Recording language patterns," the device announced. "Basic translation possible in approximately 20 minutes. While they waited, Collins examined the injured aliens. 2 had serious burns, and 1 had what looked like a broken limb. She treated them as best she could with her limited knowledge of their biology. Finally, the translation device beeped. Translation matrix established. Accuracy estimated at 60%. The lead alien spoke again, and this time the device translated. "You came. Others ignored our calls. Why did you help?" Winters knelt down to be at eye level with the alien. "Because you needed help. That's reason enough." The alien made a gesture with its middle limbs. "We are Neri. I am Elder Civ. Those who attacked us are Kryvax. They hunt us always." "Why do they hunt you?" Peterson asked. "We refuse to give them our secrets," Elder Civ replied. "Biological secrets. We heal. We improve. Kryvax want to use for war." Collins looked up from treating one of the injured Neri. "They want your medical technology. Not just heal," Elder Civ said. "We can make other species better, stronger, smarter. For short time, Peterson whistled softly. I can see why someone would want that technology. We sent calls for help to many worlds. Elder Civ continued. Confederate worlds. None came. Only you. Only humans. Winters felt a chill run down her spine. The Confederation knew you were being attacked and did nothing. They trade with Kryvax. Need Kryvax medals. More important than Neri lives. Elder Civ's silver eyes seemed to dim. Always been this way. Captain Winters stood up, her face hard with anger. Not anymore. You're under our protection now. When Peterson pulled her aside and questioned whether they should get involved in an alien conflict, Winters looked at the injured Neri and the bodies of those who didn't survive. Back on the Dauntless, Captain Winters called a meeting of all senior officers in the main conference room. The rescued Neri were being treated in the medical bay, where Dr. Collins worked to save the most injured ones. The situation is clear, Winters said, standing at the head of the table. We have refugees who were attacked. We're taking them to Earth for protection. Navigator Paul Harrison, a thin man with a permanently worried expression, shook his head. Captain, with all due respect, this is a terrible idea. The Confederation will see this as interference. I've already sent a report to Earth Command, Winters replied. I'm waiting for their response. As if on cue, Communications Officer Heather Wright's voice came over the intercom. Captain, incoming message from Earth Command. Priority 1. The large screen on the wall lit up with the stern face of Admiral John Foster. His gray eyebrows drew together in a deep frown. Captain Winters, your report is troubling. You have direct orders to leave the alien vessel and continue your patrol. The diplomatic corps will handle this situation. Winters stepped closer to the screen. Admiral, these people are being hunted. By the time diplomats arrive, they'll be dead. That's not your concern, Foster said coldly. The Confederation has protocols. Earth is still new to galactic politics. We can't afford to make waves. Sir, the Confederation knew about this attack and did nothing. Foster's face hardened. Those are matters above your pay grade, Captain. Return to your patrol route immediately. Leave the aliens where you found them. That's an order. The screen went black. Silence filled the conference room. Harrison looked at the other officers. We have our orders. We should follow them. Chief Engineer Betty Rodriguez, who had been quiet until now, suddenly spoke up. I analyzed the damage to the Neri ship. The attack patterns match at least 6 other accidents reported in this sector over the past year. This wasn't random. It's systematic hunting. All the more reason to stay out of it, Harrison argued. The Kryvax are dangerous, and we're one ship. Captain Winters looked at each officer's face, reading their expressions. Some seemed afraid, others uncertain, a few determined. I understand the risk, she said quietly. But think about Earth's history. How many times did people look away while others suffered? How many genocides happened because it was easier to do nothing? Frank Garrison, her XO, cleared his throat. The Admiral gave a direct order, Captain. Yes, he did. Winters nodded. And now, I'm giving you a choice. This isn't a military decision anymore. It's a moral one. She looked around the table again. I'm taking the Dauntless to Earth with the Neri aboard. Anyone who doesn't want to be part of this can take an escape pod with automated return to the nearest human outpost. I won't hold it against you. Harrison stood up immediately. This is mutiny, Captain. No, Winters replied calmly. This is humanity. We don't abandon people who need help. Not ever. Weapons Officer Jack Garcia spoke up. I'm with the captain. I didn't join the service to look the other way. One by one, officers declared their positions. Most stayed with Winters, but Harrison and 4 others chose to leave. As they filed out to prepare the escape pods, Dr. Collins entered the conference room. Captain, you should see this, she said, holding up a small device. The Neri gave me this. It's a sample of their biotechnology. It could revolutionize human medicine. Winters took the device, examining it carefully. All the more reason the Kravax want them wiped out. Knowledge is power. Just then, Wright's voice came over the intercom again. Captain, another message from Earth Command. They're ordering all nearby ships to intercept and stop us. Winters looked at her remaining officers. Last chance to leave. No one moved. With a nod, she handed the device back to Collins. Prepare the Neri for a long journey, and disable our long-range communications. From now on, we're on our own. As the officers left to carry out their duties, Winters stood alone in the conference room, looking out at the stars. There was no going back now. Whatever happened next, she had made her choice, not as a captain, but as a human being who couldn't stand by and watch an injustice unfold. 3 days after leaving the Neri ship behind, the Dauntless was making good speed toward Earth. The crew had settled into a routine, and the Neri were slowly recovering in the medical bay. Captain Winters was in her quarters reviewing reports when the alarm sounded. She rushed to the bridge, where Frank Garrison was already calling the crew to battle stations. "What's happening?" she demanded. 3 ships on intercept course," Garrison replied, pointing to the tactical display. "They're moving fast." Weapons Officer Jack Garcia studied the readings. Configuration matches Kravax ships. Heavily armed. Winters felt her heart sink. How did they find us? "Unknown, Captain," said Heather Wright from Communications, "but they're broadcasting on open channels. They're demanding we return their property." Winters' face hardened. The Neri are not property. She studied the tactical display. The Kravax ships would intercept them in less than 2 hours. The Dauntless couldn't outrun them. "Change course," she ordered. "Head for the Orion Nebula. We might lose them in the dust clouds." As the ship changed direction, Elder Civ entered the bridge, escorted by Dr. Collins. The Neri leader looked at the tactical display and made a soft clicking sound. "Kravax hunters," Elder Civ said through the now improved translation device. "They never stop. Why are they so determined to get you?" Winters asked. "Our gifts," replied the alien. "Our ability to enhance other species. They want to use it to make soldiers for war." Collins stepped forward. "Captain, Elder Civ has an offer. The Neri can temporarily enhance some of our crew, make them faster, stronger, more aware." "Is it safe?" Winters asked. "Short time, yes," Elder Civ answered. "Few days only. Then must rest." Garcia stood up from his station. "I volunteer, Captain." After brief consideration, Winters nodded. "Set up in medical bay. Anyone who wants to volunteer can do so, but no pressure." As they prepared to enter the nebula, 5 crew members, including Garcia, received the Neri enhancements. The process looked simple. Elder Civ placed a small device on each person's neck, which glowed briefly before being removed. The effects were immediate. Garcia returned to his weapons station, and his hands moved with incredible speed and precision as he recalibrated the targeting systems. "This is amazing," he said, his eyes tracking multiple displays at once. "I can see patterns in the data I never noticed before." The Dauntless entered the nebula, a vast cloud of gas and dust that made sensors less reliable. Captain Winters ordered minimal power to reduce their signature. "Now we hide and wait," she said. But the Kravax were expert hunters. Within hours, they had followed the Dauntless into the nebula and were spreading out to search for them. "They're using some kind of advanced tracking system," Wright reported. "They keep getting closer despite our countermeasures." "Time for a new approach," Winters said. "Garcia, can you use your enhanced abilities to help us set a trap?" Garcia smiled. "Absolutely, Captain. I see exactly how to do it." Working with Chief Engineer Rodriguez, Garcia devised a plan to use the nebula's natural electromagnetic properties against the Kravax. They'd modified the ship's shields to create a pulse that would temporarily disable enemy systems. As the closest Kravax ship approached their hiding spot, Winters gave the order. "Now." The pulse fired, catching the enemy ship and shutting down its engines and weapons. The two other Kryvax vessels immediately changed course to assist their disabled companion. "That bought us some time," Winters said, "but they've called for reinforcements." Indeed, long-range sensors detected new ships entering the nebula, not Kryvax designs, but Confederate enforcement vessels. "They've called in the Confederation," Garrison said grimly. "We're now officially outlaws." Just then, a massive energy blast rocked the ship. Emergency alarms blared as smoke filled the bridge. "Engine room hit," Rodriguez called over the comm. "Main drive damaged. We've got partial power only." Winters gripped the arms of her command chair. "Find us a deeper hiding spot in the nebula. We need time to repair." As the Dauntless limped deeper into the swirling dust clouds, Winters noticed Garcia stumbling at his station. His face was pale, and blood trickled from his nose. "The enhancements," Collins said, rushing to help him. "They're taking a physical toll faster than we expected." Elder Civ looked concerned. "Human biology, different from what we know. Need to adjust treatment." As the ship hid in the densest part of the nebula, Winters faced two critical problems: fixing the engines before the hunters found them, and dealing with the unexpected side effects of the Neri enhancements. "We need 3 days for minimal repairs," Rodriguez reported. Hidden deep in the nebula, the Dauntless crew worked around the clock to repair their damaged engines. In the medical bay, Dr. Collins monitored Jack Garcia and the other enhanced crew members as their conditions slowly stabilized. "The Neri adjustments are helping," Collins told Captain Winters during her visit to the medical bay. "The enhancement process is now better matched to human biology." Winters nodded, relieved. "That's good news, at least." Elder Civ approached them, moving gracefully despite the ship's artificial gravity being set lower than usual to conserve power. "Dr. Collins has learned much from our medical records," the Neri leader said. "She understands us now." Collins looked up from her patient. "Captain, I've been studying the Neri historical database they brought with them. What I found changes everything." She led Winters to her office where data scrolled across multiple screens. The Neri weren't just random victims. They were once full members of the Confederation, one of the founding species. Winters stared at the ancient images showing Neri representatives at what appeared to be early Confederate gatherings. "What happened?" "They refused to weaponize their biotechnology," Collins said. "About 300 years ago, during a conflict with an aggressive species from another sector, the dominant Confederate powers wanted to create enhanced soldiers. The Neri refused." Elder Civ made a sad clicking sound. "Our ancestors believed enhancement should heal, not harm. Make better, not destroy." "So they were kicked out of the Confederation?" Winters asked. "Worse," Collins replied, bringing up more records. "They were systematically isolated. Their homeworld was stripped of Confederate protection. Trade routes were redirected. And then Kryvax were given permission to hunt." Elder Civ finished. "Not official. No papers. Just understanding between powerful species." Winters felt cold anger rising in her chest. "You're telling me the Confederation has been allowing the genocide of your people for centuries?" "Not allowing," Elder Civ corrected. "Encouraging. Neri who survive are those who hide well." Just then, Chief Engineer Rodriguez called over the intercom. "Captain, you need to come to engineering. We've made a breakthrough." In the engine room, Rodriguez and 3 Neri technicians stood proudly next to a strange-looking device connected to the ship's power systems. "We've integrated some Neri biotechnology with our engines," Rodriguez explained. "It's not permanent, but it gives us about twice the power output for the next 12 hours. Enough to run?" Winters asked. "Enough to fight," Rodriguez answered with a fierce grin. Before Winters could respond, Heather Wright's voice came urgently over the comm. "Captain, to the bridge. 5 more ships have entered the nebula." On the bridge, Winters studied the tactical display with growing concern. The new arrivals weren't Kryvax ships. They were larger with the unmistakable design of Confederate enforcement cruisers. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," Wright reported. They're ordering us to surrender the Neri immediately or be destroyed as pirates. Garrison looked grim. Those ships outgun us 10 to 1, Captain. Even with the enhanced engines, we can't fight them all. Winters paced the bridge, considering their impossible situation. The Kryvax hunters were closing in from one side, Confederate enforcers from the other. "Call the senior staff to the briefing room," she ordered. "We need options." In the briefing room, faces were somber as each officer reported the same conclusion. There was no way to outrun or outfight their pursuers. "Maybe we should surrender," suggested one junior officer. "Explain our actions at a Confederate hearing." "There will be no hearing," Elder Siv said softly. "Only disappearing, like all who helped Neri." Silence fell over the room. Winters looked at each face, seeing the same realization dawn. They were caught in something much bigger than a simple rescue mission. They had uncovered a centuries-old conspiracy of silence and genocide. It was Communications Officer Heather Wright who finally spoke up. "What if we tell everyone?" All eyes turned to her. "What do you mean?" Winters asked. Wright leaned forward eagerly. "Before they catch us, we broadcast everything we've learned. The Neri history, the Confederate complicity, all of it. Send it to every human outpost and settlement." "A truth bomb," Rodriguez said with growing excitement. "Make it impossible to cover up." "They'll just say we're lying," Garrison pointed out. "Not if we include the Neri historical records as proof," Collins countered, "and our own logs documenting everything we've seen." Winters felt a spark of hope for the first time in days. "Before they can silence us, we make sure the truth gets out." She stood up, decision made. "Right, start preparing the broadcast package." The crew of the Dauntless worked with desperate speed. In communications, Heather Wright packaged the Neri historical records along with the ship's logs and sensor data. In engineering, Rodriguez fine-tuned the bio-enhanced engines for maximum performance. "Broadcast package ready, Captain," Wright reported from her station on the bridge. "I've set it to transmit on all emergency frequencies." Captain Winters nodded. "Send it now, before they can jam our signals." Wright pressed the command, and throughout human space, the truth about the Neri genocide began spreading from outpost to outpost, ship to ship. "Now," Winters said grimly, "we prepare for battle." The enhanced weapons systems came online, with Jack Garcia back at his station despite Dr. Collins's objections. 4 more crew members had volunteered for the Neri enhancements, understanding the risks. "Enemy ships closing from all directions," Garrison reported. "We're surrounded. Take us out of the nebula," Winters ordered. "If we're going to fight, let's do it where we can see them clearly." The Dauntless emerged from the dust clouds, engines glowing with unusual blue-green light from the Neri modifications. Ahead of them waited 3 Confederate enforcement cruisers, massive and heavily armed. "They're hailing us," Wright said. "On screen," Winters replied, straightening her uniform. The face that appeared was that of Confederate Commander Voss, a member of a reptilian species known for their strict adherence to rules. His scales darkened with anger when he saw Winters. "Captain Winters, you have violated multiple Confederate laws. Surrender the Neri fugitives immediately." "These aren't fugitives," Winters replied calmly. "They're refugees fleeing genocide. A genocide your Confederation has supported for centuries." Voss's eyes narrowed. "Ridiculous accusations. Surrender now or be destroyed." "We've already sent the truth to every human outpost," Winters said. "You can't hide this anymore." Voss cut the transmission. The Confederate ships began moving into attack formation. "All hands, prepare for impact," Winters called. But before the Confederate ships could fire, something unexpected happened. 2 ships appeared from behind the Dauntless, moving to position themselves between the human vessel and the Confederate cruisers. "Captain," Wright called excitedly. "It's the ESS Valiant and ESS Defiant. They're human ships." Indeed, 2 Earth Space Navy vessels had arrived and were broadcasting on an open channel. "This is Captain Nicole Carter of the Valiant," came a woman's voice. We received your transmission, Dauntless. We stand with you. And this is Captain Kevin Ward of the Defiant, added a male voice. Your evidence was compelling, Captain Winters. The Confederation has a lot to answer for. Winters felt a surge of hope. 2 more ships won't be enough against 5 Confederate cruisers and 2 Kryvax hunters. We don't need to win, Garcia said from Tactical. We just need to make enough noise that the truth can't be ignored. The battle began suddenly and fiercely. The Confederate ships fired first, but the human vessels responded with unexpected ferocity. The Neri-enhanced systems gave the Dauntless weapons and shields beyond what the Confederation expected. Even so, they were outnumbered. Within 20 minutes, all 3 human ships had taken heavy damage. Hull breach on Deck 3. Rodriguez reported as the ship shook from another hit. We can't take much more of this. In the midst of the battle, Winters made a difficult decision. She called Captain Carter and Captain Ward to a private channel. I have a plan, she told them. The Valiant and Defiant can escort most of my crew and the Neri refugees to Earth. The Dauntless will stay behind to draw off the pursuers. That's a suicide mission, Carter objected. Maybe, Winters admitted. But it gives the rest of you a chance to get the truth home. Despite protests from both captains, the plan was put into action. Most of the Dauntless crew and all the Neri survivors transferred to the other ships. It's been an honor serving with you, Garrison told Winters as he prepared to leave with the others. The honor was mine, she replied, gripping his arm briefly. Now go make sure this wasn't for nothing. As the Valiant and Defiant pulled away with their precious cargo, the Dauntless, with Winters and a skeleton crew of volunteers, turned to face the approaching Confederate flagship. Full speed ahead, Winters ordered. Let's show them how humans fight when we're angry. 6 months had passed since the battle in the nebula. Earth had changed in ways few could have imagined. In a spacious conference room in the new Human Neri Alliance headquarters in Geneva, Admiral Elaine Winters stood looking out at the city. She wore a new uniform, dark blue with silver trim, the emblem of the Guardian Fleet on her shoulder. The door opened, and Frank Garrison entered. They're ready for you, Admiral. Winters smiled. I still can't get used to that title. You earned it, Garrison replied. We all did. Together, they walked to the main hall where representatives from Earth and 7 other species waited. The Neri sat in places of honor, their colorful skin shimmering in the light. As Winters took her place at the podium, she remembered the desperate charge of the Dauntless toward the Confederate flagship. Everyone had expected it to be a suicide mission. Instead, it became the moment that changed galactic history. Using the last of their enhanced power, they had disabled the Confederate flagship's weapons and shields without destroying the ship. Then, in a move that shocked everyone, they had boarded the flagship and captured Commander Voss himself. The commander's private logs had provided even more evidence of the Confederation's crimes against the Neri. When the Valiant and Defiant reached Earth with the rescued Neri and the full truth of what had happened, humanity's response was swift and unified. Earth had withdrawn from the Galactic Confederation. Other marginalized species, emboldened by the human example, had followed. Now, a new alliance was forming, one based on mutual respect and protection of the vulnerable. Today marks the official launch of the Guardian Fleet. Winters began her speech. A force dedicated to one simple principle: we answer the calls that others ignore. The crowd applauded. In the 6 months since the incident, the Guardian Fleet had grown to 20 ships, with more under construction. Each carried human and Neri crew members, combining the best of both species' abilities. The Neri have shared their biological technology with us, Winters continued, not as weapons, but as tools to heal and improve lives. In return, we've given them what they needed most: a home and protection. She looked at Elder Civ, now an honored ambassador. The Neri leader had aged visibly in the past months, but his eyes still shone with fierce intelligence. We've learned that the Confederation has existed for thousands of years by following a simple rule: Look after your own interests first. Species that wouldn't play by those rules were pushed aside or eliminated. Winters paused, letting her words sink in. Humanity refuses to accept that version of civilization. We believe in something better. After the ceremony, a Confederate diplomatic ship arrived in Earth orbit. The ambassador requested a private meeting with Winters. "Your actions have caused great disruption," the ambassador said, a tall, elegant alien with 4 arms. "The Confederation wishes to repair relations with Earth." "Why?" Winters asked directly. "You have plenty of member worlds. Why care about one troublesome species?" The ambassador looked genuinely confused. "Your behavior is unpredictable. You risked everything for strangers. You angered powerful allies for principles. We need to understand this." Winters smiled. "You still don't understand us. It's not that humans are the only species capable of anger. It's that we're the only ones who get angry for the right reasons." The ambassador left without an agreement. As Winters watched the Confederate ship depart, Dr. Collins joined her. "The first Near-Human Medical Center opens tomorrow," Collins said. "And our research team has made another breakthrough in combining our technologies." Beyond the window, Earth's new defense fleet patrolled the system borders. Further out, Guardian ships moved through space, responding to calls for help from worlds that had never known protection before. "Do you think the Confederation will retaliate?" Collins asked. "Eventually," Winters nodded. "But they'll find us ready. And they'll find us together." On the edge of what was becoming known as protected space, a small ship sent out a distress call. Within hours, a Guardian vessel appeared, its hull bearing the simple motto that had become humanity's promise to the galaxy: "We answer the call."